Good afternoon. I think we'll get started now. Thank you for your patience. We're going to call to order the July 20th, 2015 regular meeting of the Minneapolis Planning Commission. My name is John Slack. I serve as the Vice President of the Planning Commission, and I will be chairing this meeting in the absence of President Brown today. So today we're joined by Commissioners Kronzer, Bender, Gisselman, and Forney. At this time, please make sure that pagers, cell phones, any other electronic devices have been turned off. First order of business is to approve actions from the July 6th, 2015 meeting. So may I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Actions are approved. Next order of business is to approve the agenda for this meeting. There were agendas out on the table in the hallway if you'd like to follow along. So what we're going to do is actually go through and sort the agenda, define which items will be continued, which will be discussed today, and then which will be put on the consent agenda. So going through, item number 1, Target Field, 505 6th Avenue North and 435 5th Street North will be on consent unless somebody is here to speak in opposition or modify the staff recommendation. Seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 2, Partial Alley Vacation, will be continued to the August 3rd, 2015 meeting. Item number 3, All Cities Auto, 4011 Washington Avenue North, will be put onto the consent agenda unless somebody is here to speak in opposition or modify the staff recommendation. Thank you. Item number 4, 2724 through 2728 First Avenue South. Is anybody here to speak on this item? Speak in opposition to or modify staff recommendation? Moving on, item number 5, Elevated Beer, Wine, and Spirits Expansion, 4135 Hiawatha Avenue. Will be put on consent agenda unless anybody is here to speak in opposition to or modify staff recommendations. Item number 6, 3400 Technology Drive. Will be put on to consent agenda unless anybody is here to modify staff recommendation. Item number 7, 4041 Hiawatha Apartments will be put on to consent agenda unless anybody is here to speak in opposition to or modify staff recommendations. Item number 8, Downtown East Phase 2, Radisson Red, 609 3rd Street South will be put onto the consent agenda unless anybody is here to speak in opposition to or modify the staff recommendation. Item number 9, Corcoran Triangle, 3120 and 3147 24th Avenue South will be put onto the consent agenda unless anybody is here to speak in opposition to or modify the staff recommendation. Item number 10, Girard Avenue Apartments, 2809, 2815, 2817, 2821, Girard Avenue South. Is there anybody here to speak in opposition to or modify staff recommendations? Okay, we will put that onto the regular agenda. And then item number 11, Zoning Code and Text Amendments. Is there anybody here who wants to speak in opposition to or modify staff recommendations? So based on that, the proposed agenda is as follows. The consent agenda will include items 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11. We will talk about item number 10. So we'll have a staff presentation and then public comment period. And then item number 2 will be continued to August 3rd, 2015. So again, is there anybody here who wants to talk about any of those items? So commissioners, can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Any discussions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So the agenda is approved. Committee of the Whole consent agenda. We had one item that we reviewed 2 weeks ago. Was a land sale, 4822 Girard Avenue North. The recommended motion at that meeting was to approve the staff report, that the item was consistent with the Minneapolis plan. So can I have a motion to that? Any discussions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So item is approved. We do have one action item tonight, so we'll have Jason Wittenberg describe that.
Commissioners, as you're aware, when the commission denies an application notwithstanding the staff recommendation, we have to provide the written reasons for denial at the commission's next meeting, which is today. So staff has prepared what we understand to be the commission's written reasons for denial from 50 Lowry Avenue North for your consideration and adoption today. And just so you're aware, that application has been appealed and will be considered by the City Council.
Great. Can I have a motion to approve the action item as presented? Is there a second? Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Item is approved. All right, on to the public hearing. So the process for the public hearing is as follows. We're going to act on any of the items that we have identified to be continued. Then we'll act on the consent agenda. Once the consent agenda is approved, the Planning Commission is done with those items. After the consent agenda items are approved, we'll take the remaining items in order. And then the process for that is we'll have staff give us a brief presentation where commissioners can ask questions, and then subsequently we'll have the applicant update us with a brief presentation as well. And then after that, we'll invite the public to come up and comment. If you wish to speak, please sign in the sheet in the hallway. And then secondly, when you come up to testify, just state your name and address for the record. After the public comment period is complete, we'll close the public hearing for those items. So we have one item to be continued. So can I have a motion to continue item 2 to August 3rd, 2015? Second? Any discussions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item is continued. On the consent agenda, we're going to open the public hearing for the consent agenda items. Those again are items 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11. Once again, is there anybody here to speak in opposition to any of those, to the staff recommendation for any of those items? So may I have a motion to approve staff findings and recommendations for those items? Second. Any discussions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So items 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11 have been approved as recommended by staff for the agenda. So now to items for discussion. The first item is item number 10. And we will have a presentation by Mei-Ling Smith.
Sorry, I'll just be a minute. Sorry about that. Thank you. Good evening, Vice President Slack and Commissioners. Project before you tonight is a 4-story apartment building with 40 dwelling units located at 2809 and between 2809 and 2821 Girard Avenue South, located in the R5 zoning district. The subject site is approximately half an acre and contains 4 parcels. There are currently 3 single-family homes located on the site, which would be demolished as part of the project. Girard Avenue is a dead end on this block as it's adjacent to the Midtown Greenway, and Flex Apartments is located directly to the south of the subject site, and that has 6 stories and 216 dwelling units. This is a copy of the site plan and also the first floor plan. The applicant is requesting variances, various variances, and I can point them out. So first, there's a variance to allow 2 ground floor patios exceeding 50 square feet on either side. And this front lot line is adjacent to Girard Avenue South, or faces Girard Avenue South. There's also a variance request for an area wall to the north and to the rear, to the east, and this would be next to the public alley. There's a variance request to allow 4th floor balconies exceeding 50 square feet in area. And then there's also a transformer in the south interior side yard setback. And finally, there's a variance request to allow a loading area along the rear, which is adjacent to the alley. The building also requires site plan review. The front, the applicant is proposing 53 parking spaces, which would be located on the first level and also underground. The primary exterior materials would be primarily stucco, brick, metal panel, and glass, and no one elevation would contain more than 3 total materials. The applicant is proposing balconies, patios, a small courtyard along the back, and rooftop space to give residents access to the outdoors. For the variances, staff is recommending approval of all requests for the previously mentioned front, side, and rear yard encroachments, based on the findings that you'll find on pages 3 through 6 of the staff report. Staff is recommending 2 conditions of approval for the variances. The applicant has stated that the area wall along the north wall would be for intake only into the garage, the lower level garage, and staff recommends adopting this as a formal condition of approval. Secondly, staff recommends that the applicant provide a revised ground level plan that would provide a shorter, unobstructed route leading from the loading area to the elevators to provide more ease of access for residents. And regarding the site plan review standards, the submitted plans require alternative compliance for 2 items, the blank wall requirement and screening for the loading area. The loading area is across from residential uses, so that would be screened as part of site plan review. Staff believes that it would be practical to require compliance with just the blank wall restriction and is proposing this as a condition of approval. Since the printing of the staff report, we've received 4 comments from the public, 1 of which is in support and 3 which express concerns for the project. The concerns range from general congestion in the area. There's a lot of development in the area, so people are concerned with just all of the activity that's going on, and also parking constrictions. Also, there are concerns about the proximity of the building and approving the variances, proximity to other buildings, residential buildings, and also the sidewalks. And then there's a longer letter in your packets that talks about congestion in the alley. So Flex Apartments has been there for a few years, and so there have been problems with blocking the alley and loading trucks being there. And as a response, the applicant has proposed that the loading area in the rear, which you would be reviewing tonight. And the response in the letter is suggesting some modifications to the plan as proposed. I'm here to answer any questions as well as the applicant, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, we can open the public hearing for this item. So we'd like to hear from the applicant first. If you could please come up and state your name and your address for the record.
Good afternoon. I am Scott England of DJR Architecture. I am the project architect on this proposed project. Basically, I think we've kind of worked very well with the city staff on the development. The important thing on the front of the building was that we wanted to make sure that we were staying with the small use pedestrian orientation of the project. That's why we're proposing the patio areas there. Some of the area wells were more for mechanical needs. We're perfectly fine having an air intake on the north side. That works very well with our design. The loading dock on the alley side, or the loading space on the alley side, was really in response to the neighborhood concern. Right after the cow meeting, some of the neighbors came up to us and asked us how we could address the problems that they've been experiencing with the flux. And I don't mean to discredit the flux at all, but they are parking their loading or their moving vans in the alley and blocking the alley. So that's why we were proposing to, just like a turnoff lane with our development. Girard Avenue is a little bit tough because it's a one-way street, or it's a two-way street, but it's a dead-end street. So we don't have great access for moving in and out. So the alley was really kind of our only option that we could work with. So we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? All right, we can continue the public hearing, and anybody else that would like to speak, please come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Dre. I am a resident of the area. I live on Colfax Avenue South. I'm the current chair of the Lowry Hill East Neighborhood Association Zoning and Planning Committee. And for the month here, I'm also the chair of the LENA board temporarily. So loaded, I've got all this authority. Anyway, I'm here. I don't want to take up a lot of your time. My involvement in the neighborhood over the years has been to do my best to help people achieve a good quality of life in the neighborhood. And there's a lot of development going on, as you know, and this is a project that came to us in February, and we were given a description of the project at that time. And I quote from that description at the end of I think it was a single page. It states here, the building fits within the required setbacks and heights of the Minneapolis zoning code and will require no variances. Today, you're being asked to grant 4 variances, and I have comments about each one. I will quickly try and state them. The variance to reduce the required 15-foot front yard setback, in my mind and in the minds of a lot of people who have come to me and spoken with me, it's a bad precedent to start doing this, for one thing, because everyone else is going to want to do it. And it can result in some things down the line that I don't think you want to have happening. The other part here is that I just did a quick overview, and they're referred to as 4th floor, or I guess they're rooftop private spaces. This is a 4-story building, but there is an occupancy on its roof that makes it 5 stories effectively. When you load that roof up with people having parties on their private patios into the night, and the question is, how does that affect the quality of life of people in the immediate area? I thought the rooftop bar scene, rooftop parties were going to be restricted more to the along Lagoon Avenue and Lake Street and so forth, but this is pulling it into the neighborhood. So it's going to be a little tough for immediate neighbors. The allowance of a side yard setback encroachment for the air intake areaway is, I think that should be modified to include the requirement that sound remediation be considered, because these things, these air intakes on buildings, I'm an architect, I know, if they're small enough and the volume is high enough, they can sound like a 747 every time they kick in. And if you're living right next to that, and that's outside your bedroom window, That's something you don't want to have. Finally, I'm very concerned about the alley use. I understand the need for a loading area with this building, but to simply make the space back in the alley and not have any further measures taken to assure that the users of that space know how to park their truck, trailer. Most people moving into these buildings, you see them right now driving around in the uptown area with their, gizmo to find out how to get to the building, let alone how to park there. And I think some accommodation should be made for people who live on the block for all those times that that alley is going to be blocked. And I seriously just caution everybody to require some further study here and some, forethought before we sign it away. So that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the speaker? Is there anybody else that wants to speak to this item? If not, we can close the public hearing. Commissioners, we have 5 items in front of us. Does anybody want to have a discussion or make a motion to start the discussion? Oh,
I have a question for the applicant. My understanding with garage exhaust is that the exhaust fans are associated with the exit point of the air, not the intake of the air. So the comment from we just heard, at the intake would be a mechanical louver, and at the exhaust would be a mechanical louver with a fan at that exhaust point. Is that correct?
Both of them will have a mechanical louver that will open and close as appropriate when it's drawing air in. The mechanical unit that's actually bringing the air in is larger, and then there's another one that's on the backs on the alley side that just has a fan.
But the fan is at the exhaust point.
The fan is at the exhaust
Okay,
point. Yes.
thank you.
all right. Does anybody have a motion? Oh, go ahead, Meg.
Yes, can you tell me whether or not there was a presentation made to Lena, to the board, and what their decision or their comments were?
There was a presentation to the neighborhood, yes. I don't believe that there were any real commentary at the time, correct?
Other than the one comment was trying to find an alternative to demolishing the houses, seeing if we could move them, which we exhausted and found anything that would be realistic.
There was a commentary asking if we could possibly move one of the houses or some of the houses, and they tried that, and they're too tall, and it just wasn't going to work. And we did receive majority approval from the board.
It was a majority of approval? Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve stack recommendations for variances A, B, C, and D, with the one stated condition on variance B and the one stated condition on variance D.
Any discussions? All right. Clerk, please take a roll on the motion.
Bender? Aye. Forney?
Aye.
Gisselman?
Aye.
Kranzer?
Aye.
That is 4-0.
Again, I'd like to make a motion to approve stack recommendation for site plan review, including the 4 stated conditions.
Second. Any discussion? Clerk, please take roll.
Cronzer,
Aye.
Gieselman,
Aye.
Forney,
Aye.
Bender. Aye. 4-0.
Thank you. I think that's the only item that we need to take any action on. Is there any commission business?
Just a committee of the whole meeting this Thursday, which is a pretty modest agenda compared to recent weeks and months.
With that, if there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned. The next regular meeting of the Minneapolis Planning Commission is August 3rd, 2015. Thank you.